Hey everybody, and welcome back to Think Duality. You guys can tell by my attire that I've got like a light jacket on, and apologize, but it's a little chilly out there, so don't mind me. But definitely dressed a little bit warm, so this should carry me through this meaningful conversation. As the world continues to burn, there's no news there, no surprise. Unfortunately, things are getting worse out there. Today, I want to talk a little bit about a particular topic that's caught the ire and interest of a lot of people, and it's about two countries, India and Canada. So, India and Canada have had a long history of partnership, international trade, and diplomatic ties. As of recent, India-Canada relations are at its lowest point. So, why is that, and what exactly is going on? Canada is significantly scaling back its diplomatic presence in India. And it's not because Canada wants to do that, it's because India is telling them to do that. India is telling Canada to bring back its diplomats. And so I want to kind of delve into this a little bit more and find out what exactly is going on. On September 18th, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau addressed the House of Commons that Canada had intelligence that agents of the Indian government were behind and responsible for the gangland style killing a Canadian citizen by the name of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. We know that Mr. Nijjar lived in the province of British Columbia. Okay, he made a name for himself as a vocal advocate for the creation of Khalistan. It's a separate homeland for the Sikh community. Now, India labeled Mr. Nijjar as a terrorist, and they accused him of many illegal activities, and he was apparently the mastermind of a Khalistan Tiger Force, a group that the Indians believed was behind a lot of criminal activity. He was wanted under the India's Terrorist Act for several cases, including a 2007 cinema bombing in Punjab that killed 6 people and injured 40. And apparently for a 2009 assassination of a Sikh Indian politician by the name of Rulda Singh. Now, after the Prime Minister's announcement, apparently India started to suspend visa services for Canadians, including like e-visas and visas issued in other countries in the world. So even before Justin Trudeau made this public accusation, Ottawa had already suspended free talks with India and a business mission to the country. Relations between the two countries have been quite sour. They've been on a downhill ever since the Prime Minister of Canada had alleged that the Indian government was behind the murder, behind the execution, the killing of Mr. Hardeep Singh Nijjar. So now India is calling this individual a terrorist and calls all of Canada's accusations about them being involved in this murder completely absurd. Canada claims unilateral revocation of diplomatic privileges and immunities is contrary to international law. Therefore, it is a clear violation of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, and threatening to do so is unreasonable and also quite escalatory. Okay, so Canada is calling upon India to actually rethink their decision making here, and they're asking for a diplomatic cool down, right? So that, they're like, look, guys, this is kind of spiraling out of control. Let's take a step back here, and let's kind of like, let's think this through and carefully and work in a diplomatic, civil manner, so we can find perhaps maybe some more comprehensive solutions to what's going on here. The absences of the Canadian diplomats have already led to pauses in-person services at Canada's consulates in some of the bigger cities in India, like Mumbai and Bangalore. The Canadian government posted a warning on its travel advisory page, cautioning people who need help that they should contact Canada's High Commission in New Delhi rather than seeking assistance at those other consulates that I mentioned in Bangalore, Mumbai, and also Chandigarh. All right, so now more than ever, Canada believes that they need to have diplomatics on the ground, and it's important that they try to come to some kind of an understanding with India to, again, to avoid any further escalation. Now, India has about 60 accredited diplomats in Canada. And what does the world think about this? Well, Canada, some of Canada's allies, like the United States, have urged India to actually cooperate with the Canadian authorities in this investigation, and also in arresting the people behind the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. All right. So there's a special intelligence organization called the Five Eyes. They're kind of like an intelligence sharing alliance, which consists of the United States, Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And they basically have evidence to show that the possible involvement of Indian agents behind the killing of Mr. Nijjar. Now, Prime Minister has not said whether Canada will release classified intelligence, but that could be coming. So, Mr. Nijjar became a Canadian citizen back in 2007. And now, one thing to note is that he was a peaceful advocate, and for the Sikh independence in British Columbia. And from what people spoke of him, he was a man who cared very, very deeply about his community. Now they've set up a large memorial, outside of the Surrey Gurdwara, where he served as a president, and hopefully Canada and India can hatch out their disagreements and come to some kind of an understanding. But it's interesting. It's interesting because amidst all the tension that's going on in the world, sometimes these things seem a little bit trivial. But things are. I guess there's something in the water, and everyone's just a little over the edge these days. All right. In case you missed it, did you hear about this one? Apparently there was two giant ice planets that collided with one another, causing some cataclysmic collision, which was seen by astronomers for the first time. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but it did make the news. I don't know if you guys are into what goes on in space, and if you guys are into astronomy and all that, but apparently there was these giant ice planets that literally slammed into one another, and they produced some kind of like a shower of debris and a hot spinning object. Apparently, this is exactly what I'm reading, that was potentially 100 times the size of Earth. So just imagine, you got these two huge ice planets. So just imagine how big these ice planets were to begin with. And they slammed into each other, causing this massive cataclysmic collision. There was an object that was spinning out of control, and it was 100 times, like this object was 100 times the size of our planet that we live on. I mean, I can't even fathom exactly, it's just amazing. Space is so massive as it is, right? So obviously these things have to be massive as well. So anyways, computer simulations of the intense heat and bright vapor as the two giant ice planets collide in a distant space happened about 1,800 light years away from Earth. Wow. Speaking of collisions, apparently there's more tensions going on in the South China Sea. Both Beijing and Manila, Philippines, are blaming each other for two separate collisions that happened in the last couple of weeks between Chinese and Philippine vessels and boats. So of course this happened in a disputed area of the South China Sea. These incidents occurred nearly a hotly contested region where Beijing deploys ships to assert its claims over almost the entire sea. The Philippines had their vessels, they had their boats there, and the Philippines is accusing China's Coast Guard of colliding with the supply boat that they had. And this is one of those incidents, saying that the dangerous blocking maneuvers of China Coast Guard vessels caused it to collide with the armed forces of the Philippines. Apparently nobody was injured in this collision. Boats, of course, were damaged beyond, I guess, they're quite damaged pretty badly. China claims almost the entire South China Sea, through which trillions of dollars in trade passes annually, and has ignored an international ruling that its assertion has no legal bias. So it's also important to know that both Manila and Beijing have a long history of maritime disputes in the South China Sea. An international team of archaeologists, led by Christina Kohler from the University of Vienna, made a remarkable discovery in a place called Abydos, Egypt. I hope I'm saying this right. Abydos, Egypt. They uncovered a collection of ancient wine jars estimated to be about 5,000 years old. And it was within the tomb of Queen Meret Neith, an enigmatic figure, apparently, who believed to be Egypt's first female pharaoh. Now, this find has sparked great interest due to its association with the Queen herself, the Queen Meret Neith, and the exceptional preservation of the wine jars, of course, some of which remain sealed, containing organic residues believed to be remnants of ancient wine. Now, the rarity of this event is a cause for celebration in the community, and especially amongst archaeologists and people who study history. Obviously, to find preserved wine artifacts, anything preserved, is something that's astonishing. And they're going to be doing a lot of research on this, and of course they're going to be learning a little bit more every time they uncover new treasures and things like this. It gives archaeologists and people a better understanding into history and how the ancients once lived. Now, the Queen Meret Neith's significance is highly highlighted by inscriptions in her tomb, suggested that she held central government offices, including the treasury. Her tomb was quite grand, apparently, to those of the male pharaohs of her time. So obviously she had some very historical importance, and not someone to be taken lightly. The tomb complex also contained the graves of 41 servants. Notably, the excavation challenged the belief of ritual human sacrifice in ancient Egyptian royal burials, shedding new light on cultural practices at that time. So there have been instances in the past, apparently, where other rulers, especially in the Ming Dynasty in China, and certain other eras, where Chinese emperors, when they passed away, they took along with them their servants and courtiers and people within their association, of course, literally buried alive with their deceased ruler, as a means to offer and provide some kind of support to the deceased in the afterlife. All right, so now there's thoughts about the possibility of this happening as well in Egypt. So this would be kind of like a rarity, but something that something worth exploring, I guess. Abydos has a history dating back to 3300 BCE, pivotal site in Egyptian archaeology, and it serves as the burial ground for a lot of early pharaohs, and it was a center of Osiris worship. So it's interesting if you guys are into that, if you guys like history. Switching gears to finance, Janet Yellen now says Americans should expect a decline in the USD as the world's reserve currency. Now, if you're wondering who Janet Yellen is the United States Secretary of Treasury. She took office back in 2021 under the Biden administration. The USD as the world's reserve currency is definitely under a lot of scrutiny, and there's a lot of things happening globally, politically. A lot of countries are starting to, you hear about BRICS and other factions trying to come up with ways to devalue the U.S. currency. So anyways, we'll delve into this a little bit more. Grant Cardone. You guys familiar with Grant Cardone? He's gained recognition for his real estate investment activities, along with providing education and training through his programs and events. He focuses usually on things like sales and wealth building strategies. Well, Grant Cardone said he's quite worried about the Seattle real estate market. Now, I'm not sure why he's picking on Seattle, but he says that he wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. The Emerald City is just absolutely beautiful. The Pacific Northwest in general is probably one of the nicest places that I remember visiting, and I love that place. But anyhow, the Seattle's job market obviously has faced recent challenges, notably due to significant increase in tech layoff, the pandemic. Of course, things that are kind of mirrored after what's been going on in places like San Francisco, because they have a huge tech population as well too. But there's a lot of, I guess, similarities between what's going on lately, and this apparently has had a ripple effect on the local economy, which led to a decreased demand and competition in the housing market. So, not sure if I necessarily agree wholeheartedly with Grant's comments, but markets do go up and down, and the Emerald City, as we know it, has been known to have perhaps one of the hottest real estate markets in the U.S. And I mean, naturally, we're in a time where all markets are somewhat suffering, right? So for him to kind of call out Seattle, and I think he was also calling out Austin, Texas as well, it's interesting. Of course, time will tell. We'll see how that goes. A major concern for real estate investors, obviously, is the rise in vacancy rates. This can lead to, obviously, financial challenges, including managing mortgage payments and maintaining expenses. Now, the traditional real estate mantra has always been location, location, location. Now, that may not always be the safest approach, especially in this day and age. Now, if you're a landlord facing difficulties or considering real estate investment with uncertainty about market risks, then maybe alternative investment options are probably worth exploring. There's alternative real estate investment and options such as residential real estate investment trusts, also known as REITs. They're publicly traded companies that generate rental income from tenants and distribute it to shareholders in the form of like dividends, right? Another option is crowdfunding platforms. It allows individual investors to be able to combine their funds to buy properties or shares in real estate collectively. And this approach allows for more diversified and potentially less risky investments in a real estate market. So that could be another option. So as an investor, it's not that you necessarily have to be creative in this time, but there are definitely, I'm not going to say better, but there are other options, right? Aside from the traditional way of investing, right? So as I mentioned, I tell everybody that if you are an investor or if you're looking at getting into the market, do your due diligence, do your research. The number one reason why people fail is because they don't do their research, right? So, do your research, especially when it comes to investing. Make smart decisions, make more informed decisions so that you can be ahead and you can mitigate from, possibly putting yourself in a very, very dark and bad situation. It's day 18, in the Israel and Hamas war. This war has claimed thousands of lives and, on both sides. And it's terrible. Israel's military said the number of people that are held captive are anywhere 212, 213, I believe. Hamas is saying that over 4,000 Palestinians have died, and about 4 times the number are wounded. This war seems to be spilling now onto the borders of Lebanon, and now you've got missiles being launched from Yemen. Thousands of people in cities around the world are staging both pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli demonstrations, with many more on the sidelines praying for a peaceful resolution to the crisis. So as this war continues to unfold, we'll bring you the latest and up-to-date information. So that's it, folks. I appreciate you guys spending time with me. We're out of time, so I'll catch you on the next one.